Gambana welcome in Wiradjuri language, which is my people's language, from Western New South Wales. Today I'd like to talk to you a bit about acknowledgements, welcome to country. What's the protocols around that? And a lot of people feel these days that they've just got to do the same acknowledgement over and over, and it's beginning to, or it really has, lost its meaning. And certainly in the research I do with Aboriginal communities, in asking them about the acknowledgement of, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of where we're standing or meeting today. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. That seems to be the most common acknowledgement done by non-Indigenous people today, which is a lovely, respectful thing to do. But when anything becomes a throwaway line, when it seems to the Aboriginal people that people have stopped trying, that they're not connected to what they're saying, that they haven't done the due diligence of undertaking research about the country and the history and the huge amount of knowledge that sits wherever they walk in this country, it begins to cause Aboriginal people to feel disrespected. So, it's become, the standard things that advance in what is a way of showing respect to Aboriginal people is just so common that, but sometimes when you're at an event and you might have half a dozen speakers and they all do it, they all say it, and they all say the same thing mostly, it just doesn't have the meaning and the ceremonial respect that you would want to portray. Oh, I'd hope you want to portray. So when I do an acknowledgement, when I go to any place and I have to speak, I usually spend many hours researching the traditional owners of where I'm going, their neighbours, a little bit about how they lived pre-colonised world. Is it salt water? Is it fresh water? Is there any special places in that area where I'm going to? And just really do my due diligence. It's like if you guys were going to meet, you're going to Japan, to a certain town, and meeting certain people from another university or business, corporate, and you wouldn't just turn up there and just say, oh, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm here in Japan, in wherever, and excuse me, and really enjoying it. It's a beautiful place. Thank you for having me. You would want to go prepared, and certainly if you wanted to show respect, which we, particularly in Asian countries which have that collective kinship first thinking the same as Aboriginal people, you would want to show respect. So you would do your homework. You would look at what that place, the history of it, the organisation, the company, the person that is greeting you or hosting you, all those sort of things. You want to go prepared. Well, Aboriginal people expect the same. I could come to this spot on the Gold Coast for the next, year, and do something every fortnight or every month, and I would have a different story about the history of this country every single time, because I do my research, but that is how I show respect. Now, in IATSIS, in Canberra, who a lot of people go to their website to have a look at how to be respectful. They say there's 3 different types of acknowledgement. Generic, which is if you don't know the traditional owners, you use the I respect the one I said before about elders past, present and emerging. Most Aboriginal people I do know do not want the inclusion of the word emerging, because in Aboriginal culture you don't, is a very big emphasis on you don't deserve things, you earn them. So for someone to be an elder, they have to earn that right, and that is, you earn it through incredible hard work, incredible knowledge, sharing with communities and mentoring. And so to say emerging makes it seem like they're not doing that hard work to earn it. So I would, I never ever, and I know that most of the Aboriginal people I know and Torres Strait Islander people I know do not use the word emerging ever. So there's generic, that one. There's specific, which is if you know the name of the language group, which is, I begin today by acknowledging the Yugambeh Gulmamurri people, which is the people here in Gold Coast, traditional custodians of the land on which we gather or meet today, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend that respects to all the people, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. That's a very basic, generic, or specific, acknowledgement for people to use. And then there is the new one that's come into since good old COVID, which is the virtual. And because now when you do virtual meetings, you can be talking to people all over the world, all over Australia. So let's just deal with Australia. So it is, I begin today by acknowledging, in the spirit of reconciliation, I acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. I pay my respects to each language group's ancestors past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that have joined us today. So that is one that can be used in virtual meetings. And then to add to that, if you were looking for brownie points or looking for a bit of extra acknowledgement from the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in your meetings, you would add some information about where you are from, where you're sitting, and what is the name of the traditional language group you are coming from, or something about that country. So when I've done 8 years of research on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander and non-Indigenous behaviour differences and engagement differences. Well, not just differences, but what it is that causes us to maybe not engage respectfully, or to misunderstand or misjudge each other. And so one of the things that we did do was ask people, what are the 5, so for Aboriginal people, we asked them, what are the 5 ways that non-Indigenous people can show respect, or that you need to hear when somebody is presenting a workshop or a meeting. And these are the top 5. Number 1, you acknowledge and honour that the original landowners are the traditional language group, Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander families and elders, that the elders are the knowledge holders of this region, and you pay respects to all First Nation people in the room. Number 2, You are respectful and don't speak down to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait people in the audience. Number 3, you are genuine and give practical information. Number 4, you have made an effort to gain knowledge of the unique local history and lifestyles. And number 5, how you are going to support or help or engage with the local kinship, Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander kinship and community. So that was the top 5 things that an Aboriginal person sitting in your workshop or conference or whatever is wanting to hear. And they want to hear you represent that and explain how you meet those 5 things. We also asked non-Indigenous Australians what was the 5 respect needs or information that they needed from a facilitator or presenter. And these are very different, of course. I'm not saying either of these is better than the other. It's just very different. And to me, it fascinates me how differently we have a view of the world and how we interpret what we do and how we do things. So number 1 is any new skills or knowledge needs to be relevant to my professional role. So that was number 1. Number 2, you are respectful and professional. Number 3, you are qualified and relevant to deliver that information or event. Number 4, you are direct and stick to time constraints. Number 5, any permissions are agreed upon and there's no surprises that would embarrass people. So that was the top 5 from non-Indigenous Australians when we did the research. And you'll see the differences of those 2 groups represent completely different objectives of how we trust people, our expectations, what we need to feel comfortable and secure. And so those things we have to learn from each other and learn about each other. And, the way to overcome having to do repeated acknowledgements and things is to actually include traditional owners. And they can do a welcome. Only traditional owner members of a language group can do a welcome. Other people can do an acknowledgement, but a welcome is a blanket welcome for everybody. So if you have a traditional owner come and do a welcome, then every person then does not have to get up and do an acknowledgement. He's done it or she's done it. So that place has had through the ceremony and is all good. So we don't have to keep repeating it over and over again. And that's, we asked some elders, how to overcome this repetitive, everybody feeling like they have to do the acknowledgement. Those that want to do it, of course, by all means, share stories. Don't just do the throwaway line. Share stories and educate each other about this beautiful country and all the knowledge that lays within it. But if you include as a common a thing that the traditional owners in your activities, then they will do the proper ceremony, the welcome, and then everybody can just get on with the workshop. Thank you.